Welcome, everybody, and thank you for making the time to join the discussion for Paradise in Gaza. I know it's the first time for some people on this call. So can we just go down the list, do a quick intro? You don't have to tell us your degrees or anything, just who you are, where you're based, what you like reading, and actually if you finished the book. So I am based in Joburg. I think a lot of you would have found my page on TikTok. And this is the 5th edition for this book club meeting. And I did finish reading the book. I think I finished it a week or 2 ago. I'll reserve my thoughts. Ayanda.
That's me. Hi, everybody.
Are you able to go on camera? Are you camera ready?
No. I think I'm having a bad heyday, so not today. Next meeting, I'll definitely show my face. This is the first time joining this meeting. I have read the book, but still in the trenches of finishing it, so I'm not quite done. So I think I am an avid reader, but I kind of slowed down a little bit throughout my growing up, and then finding this book club has revived that. So that's why I joined. Nice to meet you, everybody. Thanks.
Mbali, are you able to speak?
Yes, I am. Hi, everyone. I'm Mbali, and I'm also based in Joburg. Also a love of books. I say lover because it's both the reading and buying and ordering and all the jazz that comes with books. I also managed to finish the book. Yeah, thanks to moving the meeting to this week. I was a few pages last week, but yeah, I managed to finish now. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Pipilo? Are you able to speak, Pipilo? I guess not. Hey, Dee, welcome to your first meeting. Just a quick about yourself. Did you finish reading the book? What's your relationship with reading? If you can speak, and if you could go on camera, I would love that. But if you can't, it's fine as well.
Hi, Adhan. Camera not today, unfortunately. I haven't figured out the background on Google Meet, but next one, definitely. Relationship with reading. I used to read a lot, but then I got burnt out after I finished my master's, so I sort of put the books down. So I'm getting back into it. Did I finish the book? No, but but I have a feeling I'm going to finish it quite quickly this week. But yeah, that's a quick intro. Is there anything else that you wanted to know about me?
No, just 2 things. You guys notice how she called me Atlahang. So everybody calls me Kgosi because of my page. But guys, my ID name, my work name is actually Atlahang. But you can call me Kgosi, it's fine. And yeah, Dee, you owe me a Vida date.
Sorry to out you.
You didn't finish the book. You are taking me to Vida. Guys, we work together.
Got you.
Thank you. Any Tebogo, are you able to speak?
Yes, I'm able to speak.
Is it your first time joining us?
It's my first time.
Welcome. Where are you joining us from? Did you finish the book?
I'm joining all the way from Mpumalanga, Limpopo. I'm actually still in chapter 5 because I think I bought the book on Tuesday or Wednesday, something.
Okay. I don't know if it's just me, but there's your sound is muffled. It feels like you're speaking through something. It's not clear.
Okay, let me move up.
Are you using earphones?
Is it now? Yeah, I was on earphones.
Yeah, this is so much better. Can you please repeat everything that you said? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm from Witbank in Mpumalanga, and I'm still in chapter 5.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
you did say this is your first time joining us, eh?
It is.
Welcome, welcome.
Thank you.
Can we move on to Kangelwa, if you can speak? Okay.
Hi everyone, sorry I was struggling to unmute my mic. I'm Kangelwa. I'm new to this group. I am in the Eastern Cape. But then I think by next week I'll probably be outside of SA. But Eastern Cape is home. I haven't gotten a chance to get hold of the book because there was no PDF copy and I couldn't order it and be able to read and join the meeting. But then since it's my first time, I thought let me join and see how it goes so that I'm kind of more prepared and know what to expect for the next discussion. So I won't participate much. I will listen, hopefully. It won't spoil the book for me because I still want to read it or get myself a copy and read it. Yeah, looking forward to this.
Thank you so much. Lakini, it's not your first time.
I'm always here.
A regular.
I'm a regular. Hi, everyone. My name is Lakini. I'm based in Johannesburg. Yeah, I've read the book. I finished it last week, Sunday. Yeah.
I hope your notepad is ready.
I kind of stopped taking notes on like chapter 20 because they're so short. And then I was taking notes on my iPad on Libby, and then the book got returned. So as myself thought.
So you lost
But I wanted
everything.
to ask you, where's your outfit? You've changed outfits. I saw your TikTok. You had an outfit that matched the book cover.
It's
Okay.
a hard, like earning
Okay.
right now. The outfit was for content.
Oh, ngiyakubona. Sure.
In person, that's what I would have worn. Leah,
Okay.
are you able to join? If not, Litoto, are you able to join?
Hi guys. I am Letloto. I'm from Rustenburg. I think I'm the only one from Rustenburg now, but hopefully there'll be other people that join from Rustenburg. I don't know. I don't know what to say. Like, reading has always been a part of my life from a very, very young age. So yeah, I've always liked books. I've always, yeah, could understand books. So for me, it's always been an ongoing thing. And, you've been trying to get book clubs and, all the politics and all of that. So at least I found an online group where it won't need a lot of things to actually happen for you to get discussions and all that. So I'm actually looking forward to the club because I am mainly I would say South African female, well, let's say black female reader than other genres. So I think this group will actually open me up to different authors and not only the people that I have been, focusing on. So I'm looking forward to it and I think I'm going to enjoy. So let's just see what happens today and yeah, hopefully the next one I'll be prepared.
Okay, when you say South African black female readers, what are some like names that you've enjoyed?
I know I have enjoyed Nomaswazi. Nomaswazi has to be my favorite book. So the thing is I'm more into titles, but I know that it's mainly females that I target and focus on. So yeah.
Okay, thank you. I think I was looking at books yesterday and Nomaswazi popped up. I just forgot the author as well. I'm not sure if it's Busisiwe or not, but I don't think it is. Thank you so much for joining, Little. I think it's Pumulo.
Yes, it is. My name is Pomolo.
Almost said Pumulo.
You're Englishifying my name. I keep Pomolo. It's Sesotho.
Phumulo.
Phumulo.
And then Sifani?
Pardon? Sifani saka?
Sifani?
Ke porotho.
Yes. Porota. What does it
Yeah.
mean? So interesting. I've
I have
never heard
no
before.
idea what it means, but I do know that there's a place in Lesotho called Porota, something like that. So yeah, but I do not know what my surname means.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm also based in Johannesburg South. Unfortunately, I haven't finished reading the book. I'm still in the midst of reading it. But my 12-year-old son is just looking at me saying that he's done reading it. He actually enjoyed it. He's giving me a side eye. Yeah, so he's done reading it and I'm not. Yeah, but hopefully I'll be done within the week, within this week rather, to finish it. I've always had a big love of reading. So it's always been my escape. Through hardships, I've always read, so it takes you away from the difficulties of life. So for me, there's always been an escape more than anything. And I've read most of my life. Kind of within the last couple of years, due to studies and stuff, I've kind of not read as often as I used to, but I'm starting up again to read. Yeah. Thank you.
So the narrative that has come up in our past meetings is that South African, or rather African-lit books, they don't provide you an escape because it's always a heavy text. The situations are always very heavy. Do you find that they provide an escape for you?
Not all of them, some. So I don't necessarily just read African authors, I read everything. So yeah, so for me, like Zugisa Wona, for me, her early books would, yeah, they were like more entertaining books. So they were not so heavy in terms of, yeah, so they were just not heavy.
Okay, nice. I think I've read Men of the South, and I wanted to read others like The Madams, but her books are not easy to find at the moment. Really Boni, thank you so much, Phumulo.
Oh, thank you.
Really, are you able to?
Hello guys. I'm Ridiboni Mushamanyani. I'm from Ekangala, Procor State. I've been in the group forever, but yeah, it's my first meeting because the previous months I was not fully okay. I was battling life and some things. But yeah, I'm glad I could join today, though I haven't finished reading the book. Reading has been a part of my life for many years, actually. I've always loved literature. I fell in love with it in high school, and it has been my best friend since. I am also majoring in English, so I do a lot of literature since I love it, and I love teaching literature. So yeah, books are actually part of my life forever, I suppose. Thank you.
Amazing, really. When you guys reach the part where you are studying the God of Small Things, please tutor me, because I don't know what's happening in that book.
And I saw that book when in passing, but I just saw it and I just said I have to buy this book. It's in my cart somewhere. So when I have released it and read it, and then I will share my thoughts.
I think you guys might read it as part of your set works. I'm not sure, at some point, by rather for English.
I will see if I do. I'm doing my second year right now. I'm studying Bachelor of Education, and my current reads are Nervous Conditions. What's that? Our something Hillbro that I asked you about.
Yeah, person in I forgot.
Yeah, person. That book is not on TikTok. What kind of a book is that?
It's not what?
And a Raisin Sun, I found a lot of its videos on TikTok. I'm actually looking forward to reading it. Sounds like an interesting read. That we are our hill, bro. I couldn't even find anything on TikTok about it. So yeah,
It's
I'll just
our
read it and then.
responsibility to put those books there, because if we don't, nobody else will. Which is why I started
That's
this
true.
platform,
That's
actually, Because the books that I was
I
reading.
don't post videos on TikTok. I don't have the patience that you people put into creating those everyday content. I don't know. Or maybe because I also have a bad phone. So yeah, I have posted videos when I was starting, but I don't post anymore. I just follow.
Okay.
Mhm.
Thanks, Rudy. Roz.
How's it, everyone? How's it, Kgosi? I literally joined the book club like last week, so joined this week just to get a sense of how these things go. Definitely will be participating more in the May session.
Amazing. Where are you from, Roz? And are you currently reading anything?
Currently living in Benoni. Currently reading a book by Hemingway, as well as nonfiction primarily. So The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday.
Okay, nice. I think I'm easing into nonfiction somehow, which is weird, but yeah, thanks for that.
Yeah, sometimes you need a break from fiction, which is where I was.
True. Tumi, you're up next, then Zandile, and then Connie's gonna wrap up our intros.
Hi
Are we
guys.
having
Can you guys hear me? I
Hey.
think you can.
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right. So I'm Tumi and I'm based in Joburg. I like reading thrillers and very big what is it, nonfiction books that I struggle to get through, but I really do put those things on myself. I am currently reading Homegoing. And yeah, I really wish everybody who's been hyping Homegoing had told me that this book is actually very, very hectic. Like, yeah, I struggled. Like, I'm on part 2, chapter 2, and I'm just like, no, I have to take a break because this is just too sad for me. That's why I like reading thrillers and I like to see people die. Not that I like to see people dying, but it just, it's better than like these really, really sad books. Yeah, so I'm reading that, Homegoing. And also, I have been finishing, what is this? Endow My Children's book for the past month, but I've got 30 pages left.
Those 30 pages are
Yeah,
gonna take you the next 3 months.
Listen, I did not touch the book last week. And last week when I posted, I think last week Sunday, I said, guys, I'm almost done. I had like 35 pages left. And then this morning, I actually read 5 pages. So I'm left with 30 pages. I am almost there. June.
You're almost done to me.
Yeah.
And this one, did you get through it?
No, I haven't started with this one. So I'm gonna get the May read. I've already just got it off Libby. So hopefully I can get a copy, my own copy before May. But yeah. But I'm looking forward to hearing you guys' opinions and discussion about this book before I read it.
Okay, no problem. And yeah, I've got a copy for you for the 7 Moons. Just touch base with me offline.
Yes. Cool.
And then I think Zandile and Connie. And then we'll start discussing the book.
Hi, everyone. Am I audible?
Yes, I can hear you.
Perfect. So I'm based in Benoni. Currently an LLB student in my 3rd year. The type of books that I read, I've just been all over the show. I went through a phase where I was into listening to Oprah's podcasts and the self-help books that she would suggest. I filled up my bookshelf with half a dozen of those books that I've not finished, from Malcolm Gladwell to what's this lady, Brene Brown, Eckhart Tolle, and there's this other book that I've just struggled with Robert Greene, the 48
Laws of Power.
Laws of Power. I don't know what is it with that book. I just find it to be, I don't know. I've tried so many times, Nick, to go back and read it because, like, maybe on TikTok, I'll see a post where someone is talking about how this book helped them, you know, get their lives in order and all of that, and I'll go back to it and try and read it, and I'll just be feeling like, but this is like manipulation in a way, and I don't know why anyone would aspire to be this way. You know, when you're engaging with people, that you must go in with almost like ulterior motives type of thing. So I stopped reading that and I've revisited my bookshelf. I haven't bought anything since those self-help books other than school books. And I started reading Chino Achebe, Things Fall Apart.
Mhm.
I think I've had that book for like 7 years, never touched it. So now in trying to move away from self-help and reading nonfiction and books on African spirituality, so Indaba My Children as well, I have it. Used to read it a lot when I used to fly for Com Air. So when would be on air, like traveling long distance, I would have an opportunity to read. And literally since I think 2021, when Com Air was now undergoing liquidation, I stopped reading that book. And I think I have maybe like about maybe 100 pages left. And the struggle that I'm faced with now is remembering everything else that I've read, because it is quite a sizable book.
Yes.
So I think I'm faced with the challenge of having to start from scratch and reading it in its entirety so that I fully appreciate, you know, the stories of the book. But
Yes.
outside of that, I did not manage to get this book in time for today's review. So I did say in the group that I'm just gonna log in so that I get a feel of how the reviews go, so that I'm better prepared for the next month's book.
And I wanted to respond to you in the group and say, like, Kenny is going to be facilitating, leading our next book club discussion in May. So her style may be different, and somebody else is doing it in June, so their style might be different. But for up until now, I've been doing it. But I thought, let me rotate it so that different people can host it in their different ways, and also not like it's a me thing, you know. So
Okay.
definitely welcome. The person before you also said they were in Benoni, so you guys must have a coffee bookish date.
Yeah.
Connie, I know you've read the book. Like Kenny, you said you've read the book, and somebody else said they about halfway through it, and I also know you're halfway through it. Is there anybody else who has started the book or completed the book? Tsepiso, Rita, and Nobelungu have joined since we've been doing introductions, and Tlagane Pile, you can speak.
Oh, I just want to say I finished the book.
You finished it?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you. While you have the mic, please just do a quick intro, and then I think we can get started now.
Oh, I'm Pile. I'm like I'm Pile, yeah. But yeah. It's not my first time. Yeah. No.
Thank you. Welcome everybody. So you guys know which book we're discussing, and unfortunately, I think the minority completed the book. Nobelungu said she's got up to chapter 42. Yes, I do agree. The chapters are very small. Like you like flip twice and then you're done with the chapter and you have to start again. But yeah, welcome. I wanted to pose a question like I did with nearly all the men in Lagos are mad, and ask if there was a paradise in Gaza. Initially, when I thought about this book title, I was just thinking about the current war that's happening right now between Palestine and Israel, and I was thinking about Gaza there. But then I remembered that while listening to Nick's talks in the past, he's always mentioned that this book has been swimming in his mind and he's been wanting to release it, but he's released other books before this one. And I've just been listening to an interview that he did around this book, and he said it was a very personal book to him because some of the things that happen in this book have happened to him personally. And so he wanted to personify and share a part of his history and a part of his family history and just document it and capture it for everybody to read. Before we dive into discussing the book, when the book clubs, no problem, Rita, no problem. I'd just like to say this is a safe space, so please share your opinion, but also be respectful in when you share it. And then also, when we listen to each other, give ourselves a chance to speak. So if you've got an opinion, please raise. I think there's a raise button hand here, and then I will say to the podcast on the WhatsApp group later. Definitely will do that, D. Please share. If you want to say something, please raise your hand, and then I will say your name so that you can share your thoughts. And then, I'm sorry, guys. It's very difficult for us to have a book club discussion and not provide spoilers and not talk about what happened, because you'll remember a certain part of the book. And unfortunately, if you haven't read that part of the book, you're gonna know what happens anyway. But that shouldn't deter you from reading the book. It's also nicer to come to this space and everybody, or with the majority of the people, have read this book, because then we can have like conflicting opinions like we did with Stay With Me, and nearly all the men in Lagos are mad. And yeah, homegoing. I think that was our first discussion. That was a very interesting discussion. So welcome, welcome, welcome. So everybody who has at least started the book, I just wanted to ask, in terms of the book cover, it's not going to show, but it's behind me, so I'm going to flip. The book cover behind me, do you think that this book cover has any relation to the story? Because for me, when I saw it, I was drawn by the book cover. It's a very striking book cover, and I even created an outfit on TikTok around it. But the boy, I can see where the boy fits in the story, Giyani. I think this is Giyani. But the snake, and yeah, I didn't know where that fit in. Are there any thoughts around the book cover in relation to the actual story? Like any?
Yeah, I just thought the book cover was stunning. I really loved the colors. It was really lovely and bright. Nothing like the story, which was quite dark at times. Yeah, I agree. Like in retrospect, seeing the snake made sense with how the story ends, and the kind of themes as well from like an ancestral perspective, the role of snakes, and the importance thereof in and stuff. Yeah, and then the little boy who's quite integral to the story, or the young boys, because there were two. We're not sure which one is which in this particular perspective. And I think there are also trees in the background, so depicting a bit of the rural and Gaza life, essentially. Yeah, but yeah, beautiful, beautiful, and quite relevant, I thought, cover for me anyway.
Thank you so much, Lakini. You touched on the snake, and I think we're gonna just have a discussion around that a little bit later. Connie, are you able to actually speak, or are you gonna be typing tonight?
Hi, sorry. Hi, everybody. Yes, I'll be able to speak. Can you hear me? Hello?
Hey, Connie.
Oh, okay.
Me too.
Hi. Yes,
You are audible.
Yes, I can hear you. You
my
are
network is
audible.
a bit slow. I'm like a minute behind, if not a minute, a couple of seconds behind everybody. Like I said, for me, the cover I didn't really care for it. I'm a huge Niq Mhlongo fan. Like, I'll pick up his book even if there's nothing on the cover. It only made sense after reading. It's only when I noticed the boy and the slave, the trees and everything. But it ordinarily I wouldn't pick it up. It did nothing for me.
So, Connie, if we didn't choose this for book club, you were not gonna buy this at the shops based on the cover.
I already had. I love Niq Mhlongo's writing. I didn't care what the story was about.
That's so true.
But if it was not him, it was John, I wouldn't have picked it up unless somebody said, check out this book. I would have walked past it.
True. Thank you for that. I think the network is getting slightly better. Nobelungu, your hand is up. Please take the mic.
Hi guys. I also didn't care for the cover. I really didn't. I actually only now that you're asking us, I'm like looking at it. Like, oh, okay. It must relate because of the snake, but otherwise, no. For me, it was just a busy cover, so I never really cared to look at it like that.
He did say in our last, because we read Joburg Noir in my other book club, and we had him on the call, and we were asking about the cover for Joburg Noir, and he said, as an author, he doesn't have a say in the book cover. It's done by the publisher and the graphic designer. But look, thinking about the cover for Joburg Noir and this one, yes, Nobelungu, this is very busy. But I think the trees, the snake, the boy, now that we're discussing it, they kind of making sense. We've got a comment from TikTok, but really, please take the mic and then I'll read after you.
It's interesting that you had him on the call. Maybe we could have someone later on next time. I what is that? English, yes, how? I pay attention to book covers and titles. Those are the things that usually make me want to read a book. But with those, I think I didn't look much into the cover until I heard you mention it on TikTok. But looking at it, I was gonna probably buy it because I know the author. But it is not a cover that just said to me, buy me. But looking at it and relating it to the story, the boy, I also thought maybe it was Giyani, and the snake, of course, it relates to the ancestors, ancestral calling and all those things. And the trees, the story speaks about the rural life and farming some way. So yeah, it's relatable. It relates to the story.
There's a comment we have from TikTok. It says the color of the book made it seem like a feel-good book, but it was rather depressing for me. And Lunzulu Bookish Space said all the book covers for me are a huge no. So I don't think she's a fan of the book covers by Niq Mhlongo. But I think for me, Nick is one of those authors that I just buy. If I see his book and it's at a good price, I still need to get black tax, I am going to buy the book because I really enjoy the writing. And then to me, yeah, this is Gazankulu in Giyani, not Gaza in Israel. And the flowers could be Gazanian flowers also. Lakini, please take the mic, your hand is up.
So I just, having you stated that you had the call with books and he was discussing how he doesn't have a say in the covers, I think it's interesting that even with covers, right, they're like trends in book covers. So I'm sure with his books coming out at different times, the publishers make that decision based on what is kind of the trend for covers at the time. So I just thought it was interesting that him not having a say or even authors, and that's why we always see like annually the covers as well kind of looking the same. I know it's like romance books now. It's like illustrations instead of pictures, and it's kind of the cool thing now. Yeah, it's quite interesting.
Thank you for that. I think, yeah, the trend right now is, from what I've seen, is like spaces and striking colors. Also, I think the book, it needs to grab you. There's so many books on the shelf right now, and they're all vying for your attention. So it needs to be as striking as possible to grab your attention, especially if it's an author that's not like well known and doesn't have a cult following. We have dissected the book cover. Just in terms of the writing style or the structure of the book, I'd like us to speak about that before we dive into the characters and the themes. So I like Niq's type of writing. I'm one person, I don't like too poetic writing. That's why I like that book, Open Water. I failed with it. But I don't like too simple writing, and I need to find better words to articulate myself, but I hope I'm making sense. I think elementary writing, I like a balance between, and I think Niq has a way of writing poetically, but also not in a way that he loses you. For me, that's why I keep buying his books, and also his short story collections. I think whatever he writes about, or his short stories that he edits, they always leave you wanting more. I think he is amazing with short stories. But here, I think where it lost me was the short chapters. The last time I read a book with short chapters, it was that book that came out after the Da Vinci Code and My Sister the Serial Killer. The short chapters, I like them because they make you feel like you're moving through the book fast. But also, you're just constantly flipping, and sometimes some storylines just are not completed. And just in terms of his writing style and also the structure of the book, because it flips between Johannesburg and Gaza. And I don't think it's ever explained in the book where Gaza is actually located, but just from the narrative, I'm assuming that Gaza is either in Limpopo or is in Mpumalanga. Does anybody know where Gaza is actually located?
It's in Limpopo.
I assumed.
Yeah, I think they do detail at some
Brave of you
point
to
that it is.
assume.
Yes, it was mentioned that is the Gazankulu in Limpopo.
Yeah.
Somewhere it was mentioned Gazankulu, the Gaza in, is it Mozambique or something? And then it was said that the Gaza in the paradise is in Limpopo.
Nice, thank you. I needed that clarity. Because now, even when I'm meeting, when he was talking about this book, I just kept thinking that it said it's not in South Africa, it's not in South Africa. It's only when I opened this, I was like, oh, it actually is in South Africa. To me, the mic is yours.
Oh, I wanted to let you guys know that it's Gazankulu, a Tonga village in Giyani, Limpopo, South Africa.
Okay.
So they just call it Gaza for short.
And at the end, you'll tell us if there was paradise in that Gaza or not. But we're working up
I
to
wonder.
that. We're
You
working
guys
up.
should tell me.
Nobelungu?
No, I also just wanted to add to that where it actually is, because as soon as my husband saw the book, he's like, yes, he's very pro South Africa taking, Israel to court. So it's like, yes, finally you're reading something I would want to read. I'm like, nope, not that one. But yeah.
I was actually thinking that we're reading this book at a point where that is happening, but it was just a coincidence. So one would think that we're reading something based in like Palestine or around that war, but it's actually not. Litlotlo said, I think it's a good way to pull a person in, the twist on Gaza. And then Ayanda said he also made a link why he named his son Giyani. Ayanda, please remind me why he named his son Giyani.
Yeah, so I think what I was trying to say there is that when he mentioned why he named his son Giyani, was that he was reminiscing about his hometown and where he grew up, and that's how I kind of linked it to Giyani in Limpopo, and that's kind of relating it to Gaza being there as well. So I was just trying to answer your question, Kuti, where is it?
Yeah, I think Nami, I triangulated it to South Africa based on that. I was like, I definitely know Giyani is in Limpopo, so therefore this is
Yeah.
South African.
Yeah.
While you have the mic, can you just share your thoughts on like his writing style and the the structure of the book? Because it's very easy to get lost with the flipping between Johannesburg and Gaza. How are your thoughts? What are your feelings around that?
Yeah, so I did enjoy the short chapters because it did kind of make me feel, it did make me feel that, I'm getting through the book somewhat, even though I'm still halfway through now. So that did give me courage to just keep going in terms of, feeling like I'm accomplishing each chapter. But it did kind of confuse me at times when, one chapter I'd be in, sorry, oh gosh, my head is coming off.
I think Ayanda will join us back. Nobelungu, you can unmute yourself.
Okay, for me, this was the first time reading this author, and I got what you were talking about, Kgosi, when you said the writing style is kind of in the middle, not too simple, but not too complicated as well. I enjoyed that part, but also for me, the short chapters. It's only now that you explain it that I see, okay, that was the issue. Because for me, I felt like, what is going on? Like, one moment we there, next moment, I just felt like things were left incomplete, and it was making it kind of incoherent for me to understand exactly where is this thing going. So that's the only issue I had, and I feel like I would enjoy more if I started off on another book that doesn't quite do this jumping around. Since you guys speak so highly of him, I want to get into more of his books.
Thank you. Oh, his books. Where would I ask you to start? Okay. My personal sense is that Niq is like the master of short stories. I think that's why the chapters are also so small. Yeah, Mbali, Soweto Under the Apricot Tree. That was my intro into the author, and I absolutely loved his. Yeah, I absolutely loved his book, and I think after that, I read Way Back Home. That was also nice. I also enjoyed that. But his short story collection, so Soweto Under the Apricot Tree and Noel Joburg Noir, he edited. So start with Soweto Under the Apricot Tree when you get a chance. He also has another one called For You, I'll Steal a Goat, but I haven't read that one. Tlagani Pile, your hand is up.
Style. It was also my first time, Nick. I loved the writing style. I finished the book very easily and very quickly. I think because of the short chapters. I always short chapters kept making me feel like I'm almost done. I just ended up finishing it way quicker than I thought I would. And yeah, even though the story was very confusing, but I really enjoyed his writing style.
Nice. And then, Reedy, your hand is up.
Oh, first I read his book. I read Black Text, but I don't feel like Black Text was his work since it was a group work. I don't really count it. But I read a couple of stories from Soweto Under the Apricot Tree. They were nice, relatable short stories. So yeah, I enjoyed those. And reading this book, I could understand the back and forth from the Johannesburg to the rurals, but at some point I just felt like it's starting to drag. I don't know, but I just felt like the story is dragging. Yes.
I echo your sentiments, Ridi. That's why I say I think he's better with short stories, because I also reached a point where I was getting frustrated. I was like, where are we going with the story? Like, where are we going? What is the destination? But we did reach the destination, and I was not happy with the destination. Yeah, the story did drag him, but I was, yeah, no. Um, I'll leave it there with the writing style and the structure of the book, and we'll step into the characters of the book. So we've got Mpisani, and he is a man with two wives, Domanzi in the city, and his first wife, Khanyisa, who's living in the village. He longs for a simple life, but is forced to navigate the complexities of his current situation. Then we've got we've got Giyani, Mpisi's 8-year-old son, who mysteriously disappears during their visit to the village. His disappearance set the plot in motion. And then we've got Ntombazi, Mpisi's pregnant wife, waiting for him in Soweto. She gives birth to a son with a birthmark that some see as a significant sign. And then we've got Khanyisa, the wife, who is living in the village, and she ultimately takes care of both children. So with those characters, which character stayed with you, or which character did you like the most, if I can put it that way? For me, I liked the way that Khanyisa was written, because it's not often in African literature or South African literature where we are presented with a woman in the village who is not meek, who knows what she wants. I think what stuck out to me while reading this book was how she was yearning to be with her husband. She was just like, when my husband is here, kilomo for 5 rounds, kilomo letang. But like the sexual awakening of a woman who's living in the villages, taking care of the kids, waiting for her husband in Joburg, is never really something that's written about. And I enjoyed reading that side of life, because I didn't think that is something that would be presented to us. On the topic of polygamy, I just felt like this man was overwhelmed by having two wives. I don't think he was ready for the situation for having two wives, but let me table this and ask you guys' thoughts. Which character did you like the most? Which characters? Connie? Connie, you can speak.
Sorry, my unmute button was not working. Okay, I also agree with you. Khanyisa was my favorite character. I was so invested in her story, and I think I low-key wanted to see her, I don't know, maybe walking away from a situation. I wanted something different. And I think that was my biggest frustration with the book, because going in, I thought this month we're taking a break from the trauma of a Black woman. I was hoping she's going to flip on us. She's either going to leave, or I don't know. I was so invested, hoping something bigger will come out of her character. But either way, I enjoyed how she came across. To me, the character was very honest. We saw the good and the ugly of her. So yeah, Khanyisa was my person. But I don't agree with you with what's his name, being overwhelmed. Maybe I don't yeah, I don't know. Nothing was overwhelming in that man. That man got himself in that situation for convenience more than anything else. It's not even like he fell in love with two women, married them, and whatnot. he was living with some random woman. He needed a husband, and he married her. Whatever. So he was fine.
Was there a usual evil wife? Ask to me. From my
No.
side, I don't think there was an evil wife. I feel like they were two independent women just pushing lives, and they just had a husband. So I don't think there was an evil wife, hey? Because Kanyisa took care and raised a child that was not hers. And she did it with love up until a certain point. So I wouldn't say there was a usual evil wife. Mbali, your hand is up. And then we'll do Ridi and then Connie.
Can you hear me? I just changed devices. I don't know if I'm audible.
Yes, I can hear you. Well, I can hear you. I think everybody else can.
Okay, cool. So I actually didn't have a favorite character. Because also we were introduced to Giyani and his dad. Like, I thought the disappearance of Giyani. So I did this. So I started the book, and then I realized I didn't update my Goodreads. Then I went to Goodreads, but then I made the mistake of reading what the book was about. Then I learned that there was going to be a disappearance. So in my mind, I kept that, okay, the story is about the disappearance of a child and something centered around that. So as I was reading, I was like, where are we going? And then at the end, and I was like, oh, is this it? Right? So I didn't actually have a favorite character, but a part of me feels like the story could have just been centered around Kanyisa, honestly. You know, especially with the paradise in Gaza. I feel like we could have, that chapter around that farmer coming in and, you know, promising Gaza and paradise, and Kanyisa having like a history with the land and meeting other people who have a history who are trying to do something. It could have been really about Kanyisa and the land and paradise and the farm. And I don't know what happens, but it's a happy ending at the end. Yeah. So yeah, I just really, I couldn't understand how Domanzi was even in the book. Like, she's giving, like, she gives birth to her sons. She's not okay. She disappears for over 10 years. She comes back, and then it's like, oh, I've been whatever. I'm like, no, but that's not what happened in the story. Like, you didn't say none of this. It never really happened like that. So the last few chapters of the book, and Domanzi coming in and making it all look like, you know, this journey was all about, you know, finding my sons and stuff. I was just like, nah, it was never that. But okay, if that's what the ending is. So I did feel like maybe like, I don't know how many chapters. The first part where they're going to Giyani, no, they're going to Gaza rather. And then the last part where now Giyani is coming back into the picture kind of does make sense. But everything in between, I'm like, nah, it wasn't even about that. But yeah, that's how I feel.
Mbali, you are never allowed to skip a meeting, and then also you are not allowed to keep meeting, because actually I wouldn't have thought about it like that, right? I get where you're going. It could have been in Domanzi's, Kanyisa's story and the land and all of that, because I do feel like the land story sort of fell off. Like, we don't have a resolution about that land.
No.
Given the book 5 stars, because there was a cliffhanger in regards to the farm and the land. But where I do not agree, and maybe Ntombazi could have been integrated better, if I can put it that way. Okay. One, because I think it was necessary to have her there to highlight how men who were coming from the villages and living in the city, they were not allowed because of that law. I just forgot the proper name for that law. Because of that law, so they had to be employed to have a permit to stay in the city. I think one that highlighted the perils and the misfortunes and the unfairness and the atrocities of apartheid. And then Because when I was listening to this, I was driving just now, I was just thinking about how I don't have a rural home. In December, when everybody's gone back home to the Eastern Cape, to Limpopo, Mpumalanga, KwaZulu-Natal, me, my home is Randfontein, which I come from today. And I was just wondering, how did that come about? Because even my grandmother grew up there. But I think that's a discussion for another time. And then also, I think Ntombazi was instrumental in highlighting and sharing the African spiritual journey, because what I also like about this book is how detailed it is with regards to going to initiation, becoming a Sangoma, the rituals that are there, and also the cultural rituals which this family had to undertake for the funerals that happened. So that for me was very interesting. I actually made so many tabs around the rituals for the family and also the process to Indwasa and all of that. But the 10 years part, yeah, I also felt like that was a long time to be going through initiation. But I remember when I was growing up, people would go away for like a year or 18 months when they were going to get initiated. I think my father went for like 18 months. So it wasn't 10 years, but it was also still a long time. But thank you for your thoughts.
Wait, can I jump into something? Actually, you mentioned something interesting. Sorry for anyone else who's coming after me. I actually also highlighted, so the first few chapters I saw that there was a lot of like, the cultural beliefs or the traditional beliefs, some of which I also learned as a child. So I also highlighted quite a lot of those because I was like, damn, this is quite actually something that is believed across, I guess, multiple tribes or nations. I get you on the ancestral home thing also. People don't believe I'm from Joburg. It's a weird thing because everybody's supposed to be from anywhere else but Joburg. So I can completely resonate with that and see it. But yeah.
Thank you, Mbali. Rediboni, you are next, and then Dineo.
I wanted to touch on Khanyisa and her marriage to, what's his name? BC. Yes, they gave us Khanyisa as the old rural wife, and their marriage was said that it was arranged by the parents. So we are told that women in the rurals were not getting married for love. They were getting married to procreate and build a community. And that's why Khanyisa was left at home and the man had to go to the city to fend for his family. And then that's when he met Domanzi. Domanzi, who was actually his landlord, but he urgently needed a husband so that his house cannot be taken away from her after her husband died. Did he die?
I think he did die, or they got divorced.
Yes.
I remember clearly.
Yes. And so Khanyisa, we are told she was a woman with two voices, two souls, I could say. She was this humble, respectful, rural woman who would stay home and wait for her husband to go to the cities and come back later. But she also had that roaring voice. Somebody spoke about an evil woman. She wasn't really evil, but she raised her voice when it was necessary. Like at that time when Domanzi started acting up when they came to Limpopo and they had to leave with the husband, she was not happy. And she started spewing words of them having to take their son and whatever and whatever. So she wasn't really an evil woman, but she roared when it was necessary for her chance to be with her man.
She wanted her man, and that's what I liked about Khanyisa's story, is that they really brought that forward to say Khanyisa o batla monna wa gagwe, and she wants him now.
Yeah, it's like they say, for marriage in the rurals, it was about closeness and being with your man whenever he's around. So I feel like Domanzi is taking her time and space. Yes.
Thank you, D.
Thank you.
Exactly. Well, I mean, for me, all the characters were fundamentally, well, they were critical. And I say this as someone who's they say the recovery of postpartum is 8 years. but Ntombazi was brought into the story to highlight, I would say, the mental health aspects that come with postpartum. And although the author is male, he wasn't able to elaborate entirely on that journey. It would have been different if it was like a female author. So I think she was necessary, but I also think everybody played their role in the actual story. When we speak about the intersections between relationship, social capital, land, and migration and so forth between the laborers, I think everybody was required, but everybody spoke about everything else. The other thing that we didn't really touch on is, I think, the Western customs and Christianity and how that intersected with the entire story. I didn't finish it all the way through, but what I felt is, as a Christian who's Tsonga, my dad was Tsonga, and then my mom is Bedi, and I grew up in Limpopo, which for me, there's things in the story that struck me from like childhood, but because I grew up in my mother's household and we were firm Christians, there's things we never understood about my dad's family and the way that they operated. And I think we neglected that as like African individuals, and that brought an inkling. Like today when I had breakfast with my mom, like, I'm reading this book, and for the life of me, I need you to read it because there's so many commonalities with like our traditional customs from my dad's side that I actually did not realize growing up. So I think the author stitched a lot of stories together that he might have experienced from his historical background, but it was necessary for them to all be in that collective realm. But yeah.
Thank you, Dee, for raising that. Actually, in the podcast that was it a podcast interview, whatever, that I'm going to share, he did mention that he brought parts of his life into this book. His brother was killed for Muti, and so he wanted to just highlight his brother's life because he never met that brother. And then his mother also, her husband was living in the city as well, and he was taken from the city and he grew up in the rurals because there was uprising and whatnot. So they took him to the villages to continue his education so there wouldn't be a disruption in his education. And yeah, so what you've highlighted is actually what he was speaking about in the podcast/interview. Hlakaniphile, you are next.
I also liked Kanye's. I actually enjoyed watching her unravel sometimes. Like she started off as very calm and she was sad and she missed her man, but then she got to a point where she was starting to send those letters, and some of the things that she would say on those letters are things that I just didn't expect her to say. And yeah, I really did enjoy her. And yes, Janelle mentioned that Doba was going, that actually when she was hallucinating and she was starting to kind of lose her mind. She thought Doba was actually struggling with postpartum depression, and then as the story progressed, I realized she actually had a calling. So in the beginning of the book, I was so confused as to, is it postpartum or does she have a calling?
And they did highlight that I think the women in her family have been running away from this calling now, and they've been passing away. Or was it the men?
As the women.
Can I comment on that?
Yes.
Sorry, so I have a sister who also has a calling, but it was only after miscarriage that she had a similar experience. But I think it's the chemical imbalance in one's mind that makes it more evident at that point. Because I mean, the postpartum journey is like a roller coaster, right? And there are things that even if you ran away from in the past, they become very like more highlighted than in your daily occurrence. So yeah, that's another topic for another day.
Thank you, Dee. And then Lakini, you've been dropping bangers in the comments.
Not bangers, wow. My favorite character, and I know you like everyone's focused on the women, but I didn't really care for the women, in all honesty. My favorite character was Bento. Bento, right? The Mozambican guy. I think he was the most like well-rounded person, kind, sensible, also quite pragmatic. Like of all the characters, I loved when he decided when to leave and go to Johannesburg. He's one of those seized opportunities. I've got a rough life. Let me make the best of it. But also was helpful when he got to the village and, used his skills to make his life better. Bento was my favorite character. Everybody else, I was like, yeah, yeah, that guy, my homeboy.
I was actually trying to remember Bento's name when I was doing my notes earlier on, because I think Bento is instrumental in rounding the story up and getting to the ending. But before we discuss the ending, I think let's just touch on the theme of the land and the ancestral connection. While I was reading, I was just trying to look for the piece or the line where they said that they belonged to the land because a person, when they're born, the umbilical cord is buried in the land, and then you live in the land, and when you pass away, you are still buried in that land. And they were trying to understand, like, they couldn't move away from the village when it was going through drought and it was becoming uninhabitable, and the people and hunger was rampant, right? And it reminds me of a movie that I went to go watch at Nirox. One day we should have a Nirox date. Nirox Sculpture Park in I think Marupeng Krugersdorp area. And in that film, it was Somizi's mother's last film that she shot before she passed away. It was about the village in Lesotho. So currently at Lesotho, there is a project to construct a dam. But this dam that needs to be constructed, needs to be constructed in people's old villages. And people, the village people, the movie was around the village people not wanting to move because their graves were there and they felt like their lives were there. So we as a people have a very strong connection with the land, and I really like that the rituals and whatnot were touched on in this book. But it seems like now there is a mass migration to the city. I always think when my generation is the grandparents, are people still going to be going back to the villages during December, during Easter? I just always think about that. But just around the theme on the land and what the people are going through the land, and the ancestral connections through the land. What are you guys' thoughts around that? Lakini and Ridibone are having a chat having a party in the chat. Can one of you know?
I think Athan, you and I had this conversation in person where we discussed land and so forth. And I think the thing about land, and yes, I'm Christian, but I'll always go back to the north. Like that's my home, and it's more related to the wealth of it, right? It's the air, it's the feeling and so forth. So even in my journeys abroad and so forth, I've always said I'll go back home because that's where I'm from. Like even now, I see Kgosi in the office, but I'll say to him, yeah, no, Easter I'm going home, Christmas I'm going home, and you can't take that away from certain individuals. Yes, we want to be very Western, we want to live in cities, metropolitan cities, but there'll always be that homecoming. In terms of ancestral rights on land, I mean, that's a huge issue in South Africa. And you look at places like Stain City, where there's this entire case about ancestral land. And as much as people say they have the rights to certain lands, do they really? That's the actual question for me. Do they really have the rights to certain pieces of land? I mean, even in Waterfall, the land is leased for 99 years, right? And same construct is found in Israel, where you can't buy land. Why? It's because there's a deeper spiritual meaning that's attached to it. And I think some individuals recognize it and some are aloof to it. But yeah, that's my comments on land.
Thanks for the insights, Dee. I didn't know that you couldn't buy land in Israel. The 99-year lease thing, I know for Waterfall and also in England, I think, but I learned something new today. Mbali, your hand was up and you dropped off. Is there anything you want to add?
Yes, this land issue. So, like I mentioned, I'm also like a Joburg baby, like through and through. I think I have my grandmother, yeah. So my grandmother is actually still alive, is the first one to come into Joburg. And let me speak about my dad's side, because yeah, you normally talk about the dad's side. So they have, I think even my dad and his parents and his grandparents grew up in Joburg, from Joburg, and we recently discovered like this, this land that they actually their lineage comes from and stuff. And we went there, and I can tell you the feeling I had just going there. I was just like, I don't know. We do have a connection as a people to land, and I do agree with Dinero on like ownership thing. I don't know if it's just entirely about ownership, like actually having a title deed and stuff, and hashtag westernization happened and they bought in title deed, which we probably never had, I would assume. But as a people, at least as me, I do have a sense of connection to wanting to feel like I belong somewhere. And for the longest time, like I went through high school, people just wondering, like, why don't you ever go anywhere? It's just like, we don't have that. I didn't have that because my dad was like, I don't have that. His parents are like, no, we don't have that. And then years down the line, we figure out, oh no, there is a lineage of people we come from who are from this place, and we go there and experience that. So land is very vital. And I think in terms of the book, you would see Khanyisa longing to go and be, in the same, I guess, be in the same space or be in the land, the actual land where she was brought up, just with the sense of hope that that's where things lie, like, I don't know, maybe things to be better. I mean, at the time, I think Gaza was experiencing a lot of drought, and with the farmer coming in promising paradise in Gaza and meeting Mulatelo, I think, who are also like, having this secret little thing that they're doing, trying to reconnect with their ancestors, trying to update them on what's going on. So I do think there is a connection that we have as a people. I don't know what to pin it to. I don't think it's religion or tradition or whatever. I never know what it is, but it's just there. And it's also interesting seeing it coming across from the yearning that Khanyisa had, but which she never got. And think Mulatelo comes back and speaks about, the farmer found us out and tried to, I guess, execute us and all that. But it's, yeah, like Kenny said, it's a land issue in this country. But yeah, that was my chat.
Thank you, Mbali. I was about to type an answer, D, From my side, my grandfather ran away from home in the Northwest, and he just set up camp in Randfontein, and he met my grandmother from my mother's side. Her family had been living in Randfontein for a while, so I'm not sure where they are from. And then my father's family, so when he explained his family history, they never had a home because his grandmother was in a polygamous marriage, and then she passed away, and then the kids didn't have a home to stay because the other wives chased them away. So they just drifted and drifted from KZN and ended up in Randfontein. So yeah, we've got like relations, but not an actual, from my side, not an actual home. Lakini, you were next. If you cannot speak, Nobelungu, your
Oh,
hand.
sorry. I think I was speaking and rattling and my mic was off. So I was saying I actually find these questions very interesting. I wanted to respond. I was going to touch on something else, but I'm half and half. So my mother was born here and my dad in Mpumalanga, and I was born in Joburg, right? And then people are always like, "Where's home?" I'm like, "It's Joburg," and I understand my dad's from Mpumalanga, but we're not that close to his side of the family. So for me, home is here. I'm always here during the holidays. Well, I'm with my mom's side of the family we're all born here, right? So I find this concept about home and where people are from, and that like if you're born in Joburg, is this really home? Because in the book, for example, right, a lot of the people who live in Gaza aren't from South Africa even, right? They migrate from Mozambique. So the same question could be posed to them: is that home? Is their home not Mozambique, right? But I think times evolved. Like our family does do like ancestral rituals and stuff. Mokshoni Westland Umuntu, Ushone Ngaphandle, and all that kind of stuff. But we do it at my grandmother's house in Orlando East, right? And on certain days in the year, we go see Matuneni and clean and all of that and whatever we need to do, but we do it here in Joburg. So for me, this idea of it's only tied to the land, it's a very interesting thing because where my dad is from is essentially home as well, but I'm not as tied to that land as I am the land here, where I was close to the people, the community, I know them, so that feels to me more than like my land, and not from an ownership perspective, because Joburg, yeah, has the stories up, but it's just interesting, this idea of when does this place become home, because a lot of the people from Gaza, from Mozambique, so technically that is also not their home.
Homegoing, right?
Yeah.
Nobelungu, you were next, and then D.
Okay, so for me, when it comes to the ancestral part of the book, I really could not relate at all. I am non-religious, not a Christian, not anything, but not atheist as well. So in terms of that, I struggled. But when it comes to the topic of home, as much as I'm non-religious and don't practice anything, I do believe somewhat in the bonds that we have with home. Because when I look, well, for me, I feel very strong ties to both my homes, which is my mother's home, where she was actually born, which is where Inkabayami is, where they buried my umbilical cord when I was born. But I also feel a very strong sense of home in my father's village as well, because we pretty much went there every school holidays. So there's lots of memories tied to that place. So in terms of how Kanyisa was feeling about their home being stripped away from them, I could relate. I keep like a record of our family histories, basically including whoever was born, whoever's died, like where we moved from and all of that. I have it written down somewhere. So, when I was looking into my family, my mother's family, it was quite interesting to see that they don't have a sense of home in Kanyes, which is where my umbilical cord is, because they were moved from Newcastle and moved there by the government. So it was like a bit of a challenge navigating that. Now that home that I feel so strongly for is left. The houses are broken down. There's trees growing in these houses, and when you look at it, I just feel so sad. I'm like, oh, but I used to do this and this and this house. I have so many memories tied to it. But for the others who understand the family history and how much my grandmother and grandfather hated that place, for them, they don't have that sense of home. But I guess for me, so I do have that when it comes to that land. But in terms of fighting for land, I do also wish they had stayed on that a little bit more, because that's something that I could also relate a bit more to with regards to the Newcastle land that they were moved from. They recently won a claim on that land and were actually compensated for it. So I would have liked to see a better outcome in terms of that for the story.
Yeah, I also felt like the land story and like it wasn't completed, but like Khanani said, I think it's reminiscent and representative of our current land issues, which are also just left hanging. Thank you for your thoughts, Niq Mhlongo. Dee, you are up next.
I actually think I should have put my hand down because Niq sort of covered it, and it's in relation to the umbilical cord.
While I have you,
pardon?
While I have you, let me ask you if you believed that Giyani actually, like, Giyani was normal and we buried him.
I'm 2 minds about it. Okay, so my thoughts are, and I don't want to say it in an insensitive way, so I'm like censoring my words. I do believe there are people who give sacrifices, and that's just from stories that I've heard growing up, and so Giyani most likely was a real child that was given for whatever sacrifice. And I haven't finished the book, so please don't dissect my entire opinion. I can come back and revisit it later. But I do believe he was a real kid that was given as a sacrifice. But going back to the umbilical cord discussion and home and land, and the reason I wanted to touch on it was because when my daughter was born, after her umbilical cord fell, it was like a huge argument, like, where do we bury the umbilical cord? Because I'm not married, and my dad's side, I don't really follow their customs. And I was like, okay, guys, I will save all of this and incinerate it and use the placenta as pools. And although it was a huge thing for my family, they were like, what? You want to eat your kid's placenta? And it was as if it wasn't something supported medically. And I think the thoughts are, that's something that was done from a customs perspective. There are traditions where it's supported, but because I wanted to do it and my family is very Western, they were like, hey, no, and it's not a thing. But yeah, I never buried my kids' umbilical cord because I never felt we had a home that I should be burying it in. At. And I came to the conclusion that home is wherever we are as a family and wherever felt like home. Just to sum up the land and home conversation that we started.
You guys brought this to the umbilical cord and I don't know what happened to mine. I think we flushed them. I don't remember I was being buried. I need to ask my mom. But
well, I mean, it happens. I mean, I kept my kids one. I'm gonna keep it in her album, and when she's older, she can decide what she wants to do with it. But it was a big deal.
Somewhere. You tell us where mom gets. Sure. I was gonna ask your thoughts on the ending of the book, because I think we'll have some conflicting thoughts. But now, seeing that most of us have not gotten or have not finished the book, I don't know if we should spoil it for you, since I had already mentioned that there were spoiler alerts. So I'm going to share my thoughts on the ending of the book. I can say that I didn't expect it. I didn't expect the book to end like that. Okay, you know what? But I'm just gonna bite the bullet. So Bento, who came into our lives, and he's this foreigner who starts living with the village, and the villagers love him, and he just integrates with himself, and he starts living with the people. He takes the younger child of Ntombazi and takes him back home to Mozambique. When they get to Mozambique, they take Bento's adopted younger brother, who's mute, cannot speak, and they go to Soweto with him. When they get to Soweto, Ntombazi realizes that this is Giyani, and she's happy, and she's like, oh, my 10 years in the caves have worked. My baby is now here. Both my babies are now back to me. And I was just like, Connie, let me speak, and then you can. Let me just keep quiet, and Connie, speak, please.
Okay, for me, Giyani's story. When Bento came around, I sort of got where we were going with the story, because he mentioned the adopted brother, and it was sort of predictable how we're gonna end up. We're gonna find Giyani back in Mozambique. It was, for me, it was how what's gonna happen. But the Giyani story was sort of predictable halfway through the book. But the way it was written, I didn't mind. I enjoyed the journey of finding him again. As for the brother, Amu, I believe, I don't know where he comes in. Where they say he played a bit. Yes, technically, the last 2 minutes of the ending, he was there when Bento brought Giyani back home. But the whole birthmark, I don't see the connection. I don't see how he was instrumental in bringing his brother back. Or yeah, apart from, I credit Bento 100% for Giyani coming back home. I don't see the connection of Amu and Giyani apart from the birthmark. Yeah.
I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying, and personally, I didn't see. I didn't I couldn't have predicted it to end that way, because I really thought that it was over for Giyani. We're never gonna see him again. But well done for having the foresight. Now I wasn't thinking that. I was just like, here we have another person. He's integrated into the community. Now he wants to go back home. Oh, there's a new. But it's like, get there,
written all over him. Even initially when they found Bento, I thought it was Giyani, because the story, the way it was flowing, even the language they used, Giyani was not gone. We just didn't know where he was. He was probably in a cave somewhere, or something happened to him. But when Bento came around, he sort of unraveled the whole story to say, Giyani is still around, and he's my brother. This is the big twist. It was not really a twist. I just enjoyed the journey to how Giyani is gonna come back home.
I also feel like there was a gap in how Giyani actually got to Mozambique, because how he just disappears, then he's in Mozambique and he's mute. How? I wanted to know how.
No, but it was addressed. When they were on their way to Joburg, when they were sitting in a cave or something. But along the way, Bento was telling the story of what happened to Giyani, how he was abducted by these initiation school people. But then he escaped, and then he was bitten by a snake or whatever, and then Bento's dad rescued him. They did tell us what happened to him.
Okay, now I remember. Now I remember. Okay, now I remember.
Yeah, he escaped initiation and saved by Bento's dad.
That's why we have a snake on the cover.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much. Pile?
I also didn't expect it to be like that. Like, I actually, so I was sure I wasn't sure Giyani was dead because I think when the father went to the Sangoma and the Sangoma told him that it's the grandfather that used him for as a sacrifice, I was like, okay, maybe he is dead. Maybe I have to believe it because of what happened after that. But there's always part of me as I was reading the book that was like, I just don't think Giyani is dead. And I thought Bento was Giyani, but then it wasn't Giyani. But then the way it all unfolded was just, I was shocked. I loved it though. I really like it. And yeah, I think Amu was maybe the connection or the tool was going to be used to bring Giyani. I don't know. I also don't see Amu really connect this because, when Amu was born, they made it seem like he was such a significant part of Giyani, and I almost thought Giyani was gonna take because Amu. I was just like, what? Yeah, I didn't understand why they made Amu such a significant part of Giyani being found. But yeah, I liked the ending, even though I was a bit shocking.
Thank you, Pile. And Bali, you're next.
Okay, cool. I actually think page 287 explains possibly how he got to Mozambique. Because there are two sides to the story. So there's Bento's version, which he
I don't know if it's just me and Bali, you're breaking
got
up.
from his father, and then there's how do I sound now?
Much better. Can you use this network? Can you hear us? Okay, if Mbali is still sorting out a network, like Kenny, the stage is yours.
I actually thought Giyani was dead. And part of it was because I thought in my head when I was reading the book, I was like, maybe one of the themes is like about which which hands like the crucible, because there was always somebody who was being accused of being a witch, right? And falsely so at most times. So I thought he either drowned somewhere in that water where they suspected he drowned. But I didn't really think he was dead. I mean, I thought he was dead. The ending for me was surprising. I didn't like the ending very much though. I thought it was rushed. Um, I didn't see why Giyani needed to come back. It was just like,
what do you mean?
Like, we are happy. I mean, like, I was just like, I don't know if I mean, it just became too convoluted to the ending for me. I was just like, really? And then the dad is also not dead, he's alive. I was like, this is really dramatic now. It was too happy ending. Clearly, there's a theme, guys. Every month, I hate happy endings.
You don't like happy endings.
Clearly, I've got issues. But yeah, no, I don't know. I thought it was a nice, like a too pretty of an ending where everybody's alive and nobody's passed away. I don't know. I just didn't like it. But I do want to say that I think Amu was critical to the story because without Amu, they wouldn't have gone back to Shawela. I mean, Bento could have gone back home and then gone to Johannesburg, right? But he could have gone anywhere he could have been anywhere in Johannesburg. They needed that connection to reconnect with the family in Ntombazi. Without Amu, that wouldn't have happened. So that's where Amu comes in and playing a critical role in getting his brother back home, because Bento would have come back, fetched the brother, gone to the mines, and just stayed in the mines without going to Ntombazi.
I also don't like how Khanyisa just turned on Amo. I didn't like that at all. It just broke me.
That's why I don't like that lady very much.
Mbali, if your network is fine, you can jump in. Otherwise, Connie, your hand was up.
Can you hear me? Good.
Perfectly.
Great. So I was going to speak on so Bento's version of what happened with Giyani and Giyani's version from his own memory recollection, So that's where I was like, so Bento's brother is actually Giyani. Because when he was like, so that's when I went a few pages back. I was like, okay. It kind of touches on the first part of the book, or how he disappeared, where he wasn't allowed at the funeral. So he went to play with some boys at a stream or something. So apparently he was abducted for some, I don't know, circumcision, yeah. But I also agree with Lakini. The ending was just rushed. The happy ending didn't make sense. That's why I don't like Ntombazi, because I was like, who is this person now we're experiencing in the last few chapters? Like, you're definitely not the one we experienced, So yeah, that was just weird. I also thought, how come did Amu and Giyani travel all this journey and not notice that they're similar? Because they gave us an impression that Amu was a replica of Giyani, and that's why Ntombazi wasn't happy, and all that. So all of a sudden they can't notice that they're like brothers, like they look alike. So I was like, this ending doesn't make sense, because surely they would have noticed each other. Say that again?
I was saying you were like conning the off.
Yeah, conning the off. Like, if these people are brothers, and the very reason that Ntombazi didn't like Amu from birth, as an infant, is because he replicated Giyani, They gave us that impression that they look so alike that Ntombazi just couldn't handle it. And now years later, somehow the similarity, I mean, I know it could happen, we grow up, we're the same, and then we grow to be different. But this is a story, so surely they grow up and they're the same. So they look alike. So that part was like, we're trying to connect dots here that are not really connecting. And that's why Ntombazi is all like jolly, whatever, like welcoming them and saying, I've been, looking for my children. We find it, and then even worse, and this is not dead. That's why I'm with like Haley on this one. I'm like, so after all the drama that Kanisa went through, this man is very much alive. Nah, doesn't make sense. So what's gonna happen? Like, happy family in the city, poor Kanisa and her baby left in the village. But yeah, so it kind of annoyed me in the end. I was like, nah, the story doesn't make sense anymore. But okay, it has to end, so I guess we'll go with that. Because now you're leaving poor Kanisa, who's taking care of your child for years.
Alone.
Alone. And then deciding who's actually rightfully her husband first before she's your husband. So like, yeah. So she got to me. I was just like, please, Ntombazi, we're acting now. But okay, it's a book. You are acting. But anyway.
Thanks, Mbali.
That was my thing.
Okay, I think I lost my No, I think it was around Amu again. I get Amu delivered Giyani home. But the hype, for me, it's the hype. The whole book, they made it sound like Amu is going to do something. Amu was writing letters. That's his claim to fame. Nothing else. And I agree with Mbali. The whole hype, these people look identical birthmarks. Nobody saw it. Even Bento, nothing. Bento lived with both brothers and nothing, not even a single connection. So I didn't get the hype around Amu, really. Amu just gave them the address, Yakosawela, that's it. He didn't help. He was not instrumental in anything. That is what I'm saying. Apart from writing letters, poor brother, I don't think he did it.
Amu is not the boy that we think he is.
No! Then we must thank him for the letters. That's it. What else did he do? He didn't even know about his brother. In a sense that nobody sat and spoke about Giyani all the time. He knew he had a brother, and that was the end of it. He didn't have a mother who told the story about you had a brother who was like this and did that, or the dad who did that. So, yeah, Amu must just sit this one out. It's all Bento who delivered Giyani back to us. Mbhazima must go back home to his wife. I don't know why the fate, or rather, it was not fate to the death. But the whole thing was unnecessary for me. Lying about the men who did, and again dragging Kanisa. Yeah, it's not a fan of ECC and the Sawela wife for that one.
No, I hear you, Connie. Thank you so much. I think, Mbali, you've mentioned that Amu was a principal letter reader and writer, very instrumental because he was one of the few literate people in the villages. We've got like 2 minutes left, and before we end this discussion, I'd like to hear thoughts from people who didn't read the book. After listening to this and sitting in on your first Kgosi Readers book club discussion, are you enticed to look at the book? To me?
I am literally looking forward to reading this book. So you better bring my copy as soon as possible because what is going on? Like, it is pure like madness. I just can't wait to get into it. Thank you guys so much for sharing your views on this book. I actually didn't mind hearing spoilers and stuff because then when I form my own opinion, I always form it against like what other people thought about it and if I share the same sentiment. So yeah, this was very nice. And I'm so glad I found this book club, guys. Like it's so great to find a tribe.
Yeah. Thank you for joining.
Sorry, guys.
No problem. Roz, Nelly, memories. I think we haven't heard anything from you during this meeting before we jump off. Ozandile, have we convinced you to try something new apart from self-help?
Definitely. I think I'm with Dumi in that, the spoilers, I don't think are going to spoil the book much for me, but it will be an interesting read, having, heard all the feedback that everyone has given. And yeah, so yes, you've convinced me to. In fact, I already was just done with self-help because no, it's a lot in shape. And I'm definitely going to be reading this book. Appreciating all the feedback that I've received this evening.
I hope you enjoy it as you're reading it and you enjoy the 7 moons of Mali and Mida as well. Nelly, last comment, are you able to speak or you cannot?
Which Nelly? Are you speaking to me?
No, you've got the mic, close it off for us because I don't think Nelly Siwe can speak at the moment. But yeah, you've got the mic, close it off for us. After the discussion. What are your thoughts?
No, I think I enjoyed the discussion, and I would buy the book. I would buy the book. It was interesting to, hear the discussion and different views on the book. Because now that I remember, I think I have passed the book in a bookstore, but the whole Gaza thing, for me, it connected with the war, and I was like, I'm not into political, books and all of that. So now, since I have an idea, I think it would be an interesting read. So, yeah.
I think you will enjoy it as well. It definitely was an interesting read. I loved reading about the different rituals that the families do when there's a funeral. And I think it was a deep dive into African spirituality. Guys, I'm not going to say that word. Yampala, too much English. Spirituality, which is not something that we normally get from like African-led books anyway. So I really enjoyed reading this, and I really enjoyed the discussion, even though a few of us had read the book. I think it was a really interesting and conducive discussion around this book. And I am really looking forward to meeting you guys again for the 7 Moons of Mali Almeida. And like Kenny is going to be taking us through that. I'm going to be a guest next month. I'm looking forward to seeing everybody here back again.